Good evening, guys. Let's try take 2. Okay, if there's anyone watching, Elizabeth, what's the stream like? Sound-wise? Better. Anybody? I don't know if we should just share the link. I'm going to just share the link again on the groups.
It looks like Gentle's in, so.
No, Gentle's is always there. She's so cool. Yeah. Okay. We just quickly sharing it. All right. So I was trying to break the ice with a couple of silly, redundant questions. But I think now that we've gotten to know each other better, I think we can kind of dive straight into the topic, which is actually, I feel the topic is how men play a very valuable role in women's lives, even when they are stepfathers or stepdads or husbands, and how they contribute to the household. And we can segue on all of that. So, Chad, I don't know if you want to start.
Yeah, I suppose I could start if you want. For me, I think that a fatherly figure or a parental role in terms of a father is to basically bring to the table something which I personally think is, especially in terms of the development of the child, a protective sort of measure for the child, a feeling of safety within the environment that they're growing up, while also creating a sense of stability within the household. Like a lot of people tend to say that the husband must be the head of the household. I don't really follow that sort of and fall into that sort of category, but I do believe that a father can manage the household. And the only reason why I say that is I speak from my own experience as my father. He was never the type of person who used to lay down the law and everybody just follows suit. He was more the type of person who used to listen to my mother argue, listen to the sons argue, and then he would literally interject when he felt something was getting overhand or overboard or anything like that. And then he would be the calming factor within the family, and he would draw on all those the tethers of our characters, the way we developed as children, because we were 3 kids, and how we stuck together. And it's funny enough why I say that is because when he passed away, a lot of those strands that he pulled the family together, we as the remaining family members had to try and suddenly find that and recuperate that within ourselves. So I think that's one of the major things that a fatherly figure can bring to the table, and obviously be available for that kind of lesson as such.
Okay. No, for sure.
I mean, I do agree with Chad, and also in our household when I was growing up, my mom was the one who was laying down the law, sort of running the household, and Dad was working and coming home and working, and so it was pretty much a traditional sort of setup. But yeah, I mean, times have now changed, and I think where the mom used to lay down the law, it's now a bit different, where both parents or both partners will sort of help and assist and work together.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's fair for step parents and parents to kind of discipline children in a new household, kind of like an amalgamated joint household?
So, I don't know. Sort of from my point of view, because I met Elizabeth when Rishka was 3, and at first you want to be the father and take over and discipline and do everything, and over the sort of years I've sort of taken more of a step back and be more the central party between the two. But obviously she's grown up, so things have changed a lot. But what I find with a lot of families where there's now a stepmom or stepdad, it's sort of the wrong approach to want to go head in first and start disciplining. The children doesn't always the child or children doesn't always take that to heart very easily. They're like, oh well, you're not my dad, you're not my mom. So, but with time, like they say, with time everything becomes better.
Yeah, I think patience is also key.
Yeah.
I also realized, I mean, obviously, I also have a little additional, a little add-in, a little girl, and I realized instead of trying to put pressure on myself to be the, not stepmom as such, but you know, I'm feeling responsible for the child. It took me a long time. People who know me will know I used to clap such anxiety when she'd come visit, because I'd feel all this kind of pressure on me and what I should be and what the world thinks you should be and how you think you should be in your head. And this last Sunday, yesterday, we had such a joy. We were gardening and we were playing in the mud and we were just being two little girls being mischievous, and we actually had fun, and we managed to bond in that sort of sense. I know I segue a lot, but I think by taking that pressure off, you're able to connect one-on-one as two people in a relationship who both say love the other party, the father or the mom. So I think that's important.
Yeah, that is.
I also think one thing that, you know, in an ideal world, I suppose it would be best to have, if it were possible to have, let's say, I'm just using as an example, Lawrence, you were saying that you're a stepfather. It would be also great if you could have the biological father and the stepfather working in tandem, you know, and both supporting each other in terms of the parenting role of the child. I know that's not an ideal world. That's not where it always will go, but it would, in my opinion, the more parents you could add to the equation, that can only be beneficial. The less parenting you have, I can only just see negative results from that.
I mean, it's like the old saying: it takes a village to raise a child. I mean, in sort of in my case, you know, we've had to accept our roles, and then sort of from there start doing what we need to do and playing that role for each other to support each other. And I mean, it's true what you're saying, that the less parental figures there are, the more difficult it is. But luckily still, I mean, in our family, we've got a lot of people that will sort of come in and help, and, you know, omas and opas and aunts and uncles. So, you know, it's still a good thing.
Yeah, I think maybe I should also distinguish what I think that there's two things that we need to recognize when it comes to raising kids. Is the one is parenting, which is one thing, and being a parent is a completely separate thing. That's two completely different topics that we're going to be talking about, because you can be a parent to your child, but your parenting skill could be really terrible.
Correct.
So, and when I say the more parenting there is, the better it can be, and especially if there's consensus amongst the parents. And you know, like for an example, I know of many children that have grown up, like for an example, where they don't have a mother and father figure, but they have maybe, let's say for an example, a grandfather and a grandmother figure, and they come out fine. And the reason being is because the two elderly parents, or the grandfather or grandmother, they've already struggled through the parenting system, and I think that's what makes it beneficial. And when it comes to what can a father bring, well, in my opinion, it is part of the parenting. He can bring a different aspect to the parenting that can be beneficial. So yes, I think that's pretty much what's important, is to distinguish the difference between parenting versus being a parent.
But also in that sense, you know, I'm a firm believer of that you don't need to be biologically related to a person to be a parent. For instance, my father is not my real father. I've never met my father. And so for me, growing up in a household where you had a father obviously we're treating you different because you weren't his biological son.
Mm.
I'm not in the same situation, but I'm treating my daughter as my own.
Yeah.
And sort of once again, it's like you said, where the grandfather has been through it, and he can be the voice of reason and give a bit of insight and advice. So yes, I don't believe I mean, there's stepfathers that are closer to their children than most biological parents,
Sure.
which doing a very poor job.
If
Yeah.
I can just say quickly, sorry, Chad, 1 second. Everybody like the stream. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Hello, everybody in the comments. The Pet Zoo film crews here. They're daddies and mummies of their own with the husky. And I see Germs here. I hope Mareka joins. Hello, Herman. Yeah, lovely to see everybody. Just what I wanted to, the theme of the stream as well, is to celebrate not only mothers and women, but to really acknowledge fathers who have an input. Stepfathers, whims, uncles, opas, grandpas, anyone that helps with parenting today and tries to step up to help single unit families. It's so important because, and that's the thing that you were saying, the biggest role model for a child is the same-sex parent. If the same-sex parent is generally a goal-driven person, that child will also be a goal-driven person. That's, I don't know, that's what the data shows. But yes, I think as long as there's communication. But sorry, Chad, you were going to continue. You know me, I segue lots.
No, it's fine. No, what I was going to say is that, to touch on with the parenting side is that, I'm a firm believer, and I really do believe this, that step parents, even though they may feel like they sort of excluded from the whole raising of the child situation, what they need to realize, and I'm pretty sure Lawrence has understood it, is that you can form a massive part in the parenting of the child, and it just over time. I mean, for an example, I know this sounds rather strange, but in a household where there are obviously more dynamics, where you may have, let's say, for an example, a biological father and a stepfather, and then you have a mother, and all three are participating in the raising of the child. In that type of situation, I personally think that a lot of parents get focused on, who's parenting better than the other, like which is the biological father doing it the right way, is the stepfather doing it the right way. Instead of being focused solely on that sort of stuff, they should be focused on what's happening with the child, and then reacting to the child and the way the child is developing.
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree, and especially with sort of parents that's been split up or divorced, where mom has now got a new man in her life and dad's got a new woman in his life. Then it becomes a competition for the step parents to see who's the better, or the one will just plain ignore and sort of discard the child because they don't want to get involved.
Can I stop you there?
Yep.
Why? And I'm not saying it's only men. So in my instance, I call the father of my son literally sperm donor, because I've given him chances to engage, and there's been very little coming to the table. Is it like we were discussing Freud off air? Do you think it's a fear of a man or a woman that they'll end up being as useless to say as their matriarch or patriarch was?
No, I think when it comes to men not doing what they should, I think it's more case where they call it they don't have the balls to step up and do what's right and be a man. There's so many people out there that for one or another reason cannot have children, but then do have, and then decide to just walk away and pretend like the child has never happened, which I think is absolutely wrong. And unfortunately, sad to say, it's predominantly men Not a lot of women does it, but I just think it's unacceptable. It's hard work raising a child. It's hard work raising someone else's child, and what I've sort of come to know over the last couple of years is the role of the biological mom or the biological dad in that scenario, and how difficult it must be for them, because now they've found someone that they can share their life with, but they also have the child that they are raising, and having those two factors now intertwined.
My question to you, Lawrence, with regards to that is, in terms of when you state that predominantly men tend to walk away from it, the question I tend to want to ask when people say something like that is, what is perhaps the underlying reasons why men are predominantly walking away? Is it out of necessity? Is it out of choice? Is it because of the environmental pressures that they're placed under?
I think maybe it's a case where they've got insecurities about becoming a parent, and that's probably the biggest, like, fear, insecure, not taking responsibility. And then maybe 10% would be the outside factors. Maybe they were having a marital affair of some sort, and now they're walking away because they don't want to, or it was just a casual fling or something. But I think the biggest part would be a man's insecurity to stand up, or his fear not to become a bad parent, like maybe his father was, or make the same mistake. Because, I mean, we all are afraid of making the same mistakes that our parents did. I mean, I know it's something that me and Elizabeth are talking, well, we say quite a lot. We will not make the same mistakes our parents did.
Yeah, the reason why I ask that question in particular is because I think also we also at a stage in terms of society, especially like now 2020, where it does appear to be that there's a narrative that's been driven to sort of devalue a male, in particular white males, but the male fatherly or patriarchal figure, and it's not just coming through in media, it's pretty much coming through everywhere. Now, can you imagine if you're a small boy growing up in an environment where the male figure is seen pretty much of no value? Yeah. When you get to the point where you want to maybe participate as a fatherly figure, maybe you suddenly think to yourself, well, I really cannot bring that much to the table because I am of no value,
Yeah.
I
mean, it's like, for instance, and I find, and a lot of people have said this, and I find this absolutely disgusting. Where, I mean, it comes from the top of our country, where our president has told us that men are rapists, men are killers. Yes, stats do show that. Once you start telling men that, listen, men are not rapists, men are not killers, we are fathers, we are the stability, we are the patriarch, we are the rock in the household, then you'll sort of start finding people to change them seeing, and people, it's like a reverse psychology. If you tell someone they're dumb or stupid or fat, they will actually become it. Whereas if you tell them the right thing, they'll actually become that. And I do take offense with the devaluation of the man in our current society. I find that just wrong.
Yeah. Just some. I'm not sure if you're aware of some of the facts, but I did a little bit of research, obviously, before I came onto the stream, and in particular, I was interested in the South African context, and I just popped onto Stats SA South Africa. If I had to say to either you, Ruth, or to you, Lawrence, if I had to ask you, in terms of percentage of children, in terms of staying with their biological parents, whether they're staying with just the mother, just the father, or with both parents, or perhaps not even with their parents, in terms of percentages, let me give you some of the figures that are out there, and to me, that tells me there's something seriously wrong in the system. So let me tell you what this is now from the Mbalo brief of March 2018. So they're using the stats from 2016 because obviously they got to correlate all the information, and it comes from older data as such. But the report came out in 2018. Now, in 2016, in South Africa, in terms of the dynamics of the family household, children under the age of 6, so any child that was under the age of 6, 46% of those children was living with their mothers only. Okay. Then you have 40% that are living with both parents.
How many?
40%. Okay.
Okay.
Then you have where the child is not living with either the father or the mother. It's living with somebody that's not related in any way. That's 12% of the children's population. Now, if you calculate those figures, the ones that is left this is the figure for how many children are living with the father only. It's 2%.
Yeah.
2%.
Yeah.
That tells me there's a systemic problem there, because it's like as if they're saying, you know what, you're a male, you cannot raise a child. And to me, that's wrong.
I do agree. Whether you male or female, mother or father, either can be exceptional or either can be disastrous for the child. Yes, I do think it's sort of a old, going back to the 1950s. Maybe it's better staying with your mother, but then, I mean, you do have very poor mothers out there. I know from like, for instance, my guy that works with me, he's got 2 children. The one stays in the Eastern Cape with his with his mother, and the other one stays with his girlfriend. The reason for that is because he's working. He supports them. He sends them money. He buys them clothes, whatever. It's just his living conditions aren't suitable for his ex-girlfriend and for his other child. So, but he's a father that provides. It's just, I think it's different for everyone. It's just sad to know that so many children are not staying with their fathers or are not staying with a full complement.
That's an extremely high figure. I mean, 12% of all children in South Africa are living with parents that are not even their real parents.
Yeah, that is shocking.
And if you, because I would have thought that would have been the 2%, but the 2% is parents where the child is living with just the father. It's like the courts are literally saying to you, you know what, you're a father, because you have a set of testes, you cannot. You're not functional enough to raise a child up to the age of 6.
Yeah, I think our court systems. Look, we're supposed to have a brilliant court system. What is our court system? Which country is it based on? The United Kingdom one. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
And maybe the United Kingdom. What's wrong? Hold on, tech guy's doing something, and I've just lost my train of thought. But all right, so, but I agree. I don't see why there should be a difference if the father can prove that he can obviously be a good role model to the child. That's obviously no drugs, no, be responsible. But you know, if I was thinking earlier when I was preparing for the stream as well, you know that little old nursery rhyme that says, little girls sweet and nice are made with sugar and spice, all boys, don't quote me, but boys puppy dogs tails. Just hold on, TG, you're moving the table here. And even an old nursery rhyme when I grew up listening to, even back then, those connotations, but you're a boy, you're naughty, you're bad, you're undisciplined, you know, and even now with children being diagnosed with all these ADD and ADHDs and Asperger's, and it's funny how 80 or 60% of those children are actually boys.
Yeah, it's quite a situation. Yeah, I just feel like we need to, as much as we recognize that there's a Mother's Day, we need to also recognize that the fathers play just as an important role. And like you actually, you said,
Okay.
so can you hear me?
Yeah, just cut there for a second.
Sorry. Okay. So I wanted to push back a little bit on what you said a little earlier. If the father was capable of showing that he's capable of presenting that he can raise the child, then he should be entitled to have access to the child and perhaps raise the child. Now, if I'm looking at the stats, if I'm looking at Stats SA, the 46% of the females that are gay just automatically getting
men are bad, men aren't looking after women, men are abusing women, which unfortunately in many cases is the truth. It sort of creates a precedence for men to start thinking that way. And what we forget is how difficult it is for either a single mother to raise a child on her own, but not just that, especially how difficult it is for a single father to raise a child on their own. It's difficult for any one of the two.
Yeah, look, while I acknowledge that there is certainly, without a doubt, a disproportionate amount of men, essentially committing gender-based violence against the female. The question that I sort of like want to go down and dig to the root of is, obviously it's a root problem, but is it a case of that the man who's beating the woman, is it because he's thinking to himself, I'm the man and you're a woman, therefore I'm going to beat you? Or is it just simply a case of that he's exploiting somebody that's weaker than him?
I think it's a bit of both.
If I can just stop there, if I can just butt in with that thought there, I just want to say hi to Eleutheria, hi to Jeremy, hi to Herman, hello everybody for rejoining the stream. Sorry about earlier, but what you're saying, maybe it goes back to maybe the mother, like gender-based violence. Maybe it's not just off the cuff at that moment. Maybe it's something to do with what happened in their childhood. Maybe they were brought up by a single parent. Maybe the mother was violently harsh to them, and now they're acting out some crazed vendetta to fellow women species, and they actually cannot help themselves because they have so much anger and resentment to their matriarch or their auntie or their grandmother. Maybe that's why gender-based violence is so prevalent, because we've allowed generations of children. I mean, look at the Second World War. I mean, they lost how many people? 40 million people. Most of those people were men. Okay, so women were bringing up the children alone again. So maybe the inherent, maybe I rest the blame on mothers. The way you raise your boys.
Well, I mean, you look at a family where there's, let's say, for instance, a woman in the family that's very strong, very independent, and I admire any woman that can stand up and be strong and be accounted for. Like, for instance, me and my wife, we like watching Trump's press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. I mean, that woman is sharp. She's strong. she speaks well. She's highly intellectual. And while many men might find her intimidating, I think women need to also start to stand up, stop living behind the shadow of their husband, stop saying, yes, my love, what are we having for supper tonight? I mean, times have changed. A woman should have equal say to a man. Yet each of them should respect their role in the family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay. So when you say respect their role in the family, the problem I think that we encountering at the moment is that we're pushing so hard for this. Everybody must be equal, and we're not we actually losing sight of that. Everybody does have a role, from the mother to the father to the child. Everybody has a role, and by pushing this equality narrative so much, we've lost sight of that. And in the process doing so, we've created so much confusion. Like I said, we're vilifying the fathers. If you're a small boy growing up where, just because you have literally a penis and two testes, you're automatically considered you're somebody who's going to more than likely beat your girlfriend. You're more than likely going to be violent than other people, and you take that into consideration. He grows up in this kind of environment, and by the time he reaches adulthood, he's going to get to the point where he's going to sit and think, do I really want to bring another child into this environment? That child might be another boy. He might have to experience the same devaluement I had my entire childhood. Do I really want to do that? And I mean, to me, I think by doing so, we actually just steamrolling the problem. We're not actually fixing the problem.
Well, I mean, sorry, Ruth.
No. I just, Missy Mareka's asked a question here. Thoughts on children in bad marriages. Is it better to stay together for the sake of the children? So I will say most definitely no.
No.
Not at all. You can do more damage being in a terrible relationship to the child. I would rather separate and each, I totally,
rip off the Band-Aid, let the healing begin. It does more harm, it creates more confusion, it leaves more resentment towards the father and the mother figure.
Yeah, but also in the same note, I like to just always come at it from a bit of a different angle as well. So the question I would have to ask Mareka is, what is her definition of a bad marriage? Because I might have a wife who may think that because I have a bank account of 0, that's a bad marriage to her. There might be another wife that I may marry and she thinks to herself, because we don't have sex, that's a bad marriage. The question is, what is a bad marriage? If you're talking about where the two parents are fighting and there's violence and there's
abuse or
yes, because I think that's also another problem that we have, is that we've become so easy, and I'm pretty sure you're aware that in today's modern age, marriages come and go like breakfast. People get divorced for the slightest of reasons. So I would like to come at it from a point of view, well, if it's a bad marriage, how bad is that bad marriage? Is it bad to the point where, okay, this is really detrimental to my child and I should be moving away from it? Then absolutely you should be doing so. But is it a case of that, okay, is this a marriage that's something we could work on, perhaps actually try and work our way through the problem? Because also you don't want to teach your kids that if every time you meet a slight obstacle in life, you don't want to just quit, So, and I think that's also another lesson we got to try and focus on. So I think the question really comes down to, like, all right, what do we really mean by a bad marriage? And if it's the case of, yes, that the father's maybe beating the mother and the mother's beating the father, or there's severe alcohol abuse or something going on,
verbal abuse, emotional
abuse,
psychological abuse.
So,
sorry, go ahead, Ruth.
No. So you spoke about like the values, right? So I think our set of values, we've come to idealize money. So often in divorced parents, mother or father, like daddy will try and get the child over the weekend and then spoil the child mad at the toy shop just because they have money. But you're not spending quality time with that child. Also, I think when it comes to marriages, respect is the foundation of any relationship. If there's no respect and no compromise, there's no foundation stone, there's no cornerstone. That's my opinion anyway.
It works like that in everything in life. You got to have whether you like someone or not, you've got to have respect for them. Whether you agree with the police officer pulling you over in a roadblock, searching your car for cigarettes, you've got to respect them. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. And the same goes for your relationship. If you cannot respect your partner and what they do and what they bring to the table and what role they play, then I mean, it's not going to work. And that still goes for respecting your mother and your father. I think to a very large degree, we need to maybe come back to a sort of a little bit of a conservative right-wing way of raising our children, yet with the open-mindedness of thinking for themselves and finding themselves and playing a proper part in the society. You know.
Yeah, sort of like a traditionalist
Yes,
view,
open-minded
value.
traditionalist.
Yeah.
So Marika says here, I'm talking about the constant fighting, manipulation, lack of communication, no sex kind of bad marriage. Yeah, no, well, definitely that's not. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, no, it's any. I think children might not know it. And I've, for instance, let's say, for instance, my parents, they were fighting years without us knowing it. Things were over long before they actually got divorced. And you know, you don't really realize it until the day that you become an adult or a parent yourself. So unfortunately, and I know children want to have a mother and a father figure. They want to have their mom and their dad together. But at the end of the day, if it's not working and it's causing harm, it's maybe after properly trying and try to fix it and work. If it doesn't last or it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Yeah. So just to respond to Marika with regards to the constant fighting, manipulation, and that, I think that one of the other things that we can do as parents is we need to really stop romanticizing. And I know this sounds terrible, but we need to stop romanticizing marriage in itself. We need to start telling kids that marriage is hard work. It's not just a case of something that you're going to put a ring on somebody's finger and you're going to get a piece of paper and everything's going to be smooth sailing from the beginning.
And you never fight, it's all rosy.
Yeah.
It's not a Walt Disney. Well, I suppose the beginnings of all Walt Disney's, you kind of lose the matriarch figure in most of them. But I think there's no happily ever after in real life. Like there can be, but it takes work. Like anything in life worth keeping. Sorry, Chad.
It's to me, it's like almost like a business contractual relationship with somebody. It does not work if only one partner is putting in 100%. Both partners have to put in 100% in order for the business to thrive and survive. So to me, that's how it will always be. And in order for that to be the case, we need to stop making people think that, okay, you're going to get a wedding ring, you're going to, get a piece of paper, you're going to go to a fancy church, you're going to have this fantastic little dress, and all the stuff that romanticizes the marriage. We need to move away from that and start actually speaking the truth. And that's not to say that we should be telling kids, you know what, marriage is the worst thing you could possibly do. We should be teaching them that, look, it requires hard work. It requires effort from both parties that are involved in the marriage. And in order for it to be successful and for you to enjoy the fruits of a really happy, healthy marriage, you've got to understand that it does require hard work.
Well, it's not just marriage. Me and Elizabeth has been together now for 13 years. We're not married. I'm her common law husband and she's my common law wife. We live as man and wife. We share accounts. We do everything that any normal married couple would do, but we're not married. At the end of, it's like the joke that goes, you get the three rings, engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. Being together with someone, it's really hard work. It's the worst kind of hard work there is. Being faithful, being together, being having respect for that person. I mean, probably 5 days out of the week, she'd want to slit my throat while I'm sleeping. But you get past it and you wake up tomorrow morning and you work at it and you try to be better. And if you mess up, you apologize. And I mean, we all got baggage that we have to work through and we have to work together through. And that's just a normal family. That's not a single parent with a stepfather or a stepmother, or boyfriend or whatever the case might be. So marriage is hard work, like you said, Chad. And yes, a lot of people might say, but it's too hard for me and it's not working, so let's get divorced. I it's the day I met Elizabeth. I said, listen, I'm not perfect. I'm very far from perfect, but give me 40 years and I'll be perfect for you. So I said to her, it's a long term. And also because my parents were divorced, I don't believe in just quitting and giving up. You work at it or you work at yourself.
Well, you sorry, Ruth. You touch on a Lawrence. You touch on a thing that I actually think is a very, even though it came out as a bit of a joke and it was like also romantic at the same time. But I actually think there's a lot of truth in it. That love is also something that I'm not a big staunch proponent of. Love at first sight. I don't think that exists. I think yes, there's just certainly attraction at first sight, but love at first sight, no. I think love is something that you actually earn from each other.
Yeah, it's you work towards it.
By compromise, by respecting each other, by seeing the good in the other person. Gratitude and appreciation are also so key. I just quickly want to read a comment here. The Pet Zoo Film Crew says, being a single parent to my daughter since beginning of high school years, she decided to live with me. Things went all great. Principles and virtues. Now I have to compete with her snowflake friends. Okay, just hold the bus. What is the true definition of a snowflake person?
Snowflake, anyone? I think, is that person that's up to the age, I think, of 35, that they've got social contracts with each other. I found out the other night, and I've made the mistake to call my daughter a snowflake, which I now see that she's not. She's very far from a snowflake, and I've said to her I'll never call her a snowflake again. But apparently, a snowflake is they if you don't have a social contract with each other, you can treat people the way you want, and you can take from them what you want, and you can behave in any way you want. It's this Antifa, Black Lives Matter, woke society. They are the snowflakes. It's your mid-20s, early 30s sort of crowd that think they can just do what they want, and be what they want. And I mean, different strokes for different folks, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. To me, I think a snowflake is somebody who sort of lives in the bubble of their own self-pretenses, and be careful, because if you get too close, you might burst that little bubble of theirs, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, it's those kids that were giving participation medals and all that. You weren't allowed to reprimand the child because it might hurt their feelings. If a boss walks into your office and he confronts an employee, they couldn't do it because it'll hurt their feelings. That's a sort of a snowflake crowd that needs to.
But I must say, I live in a complex, and I actually want to interview her. I can't recall now how old she is, but she's in that age group. But she is most definitely not a snowflake. She's got and the reason she used to teach my son extra Afrikaans, but it didn't last very long because she had other obligations, and she got too busy. I walked past this fantastic garden. She's got succulents. She's even got a little bit of marijuana growing. And I thought to myself, nee, wag, ek moet hallo sê. And I looked through the window, and there was this person. I didn't even recognize her, okay? I wasn't wearing my spectacles. There we go, and I can actually see better. And I knocked on the glass, and I recognized her. and we connected in such a cool way. And yes, she is of that generation. Not, I mean, Germ had that guy on who was totally,
I'm
but
getting
like it makes you think,
constipated.
oh my God, the future has no hope. Oh, my
Yes.
soul. But there is hope.
Yeah, in about 10 years' time.
But there's a whole culture going on with our kids, the TikTok and the this, that, and the Instagram that I'm not even really a part of. And it's kind of scary to see. I mean, my son also ran to me the other day and said, do I really have to go back to school? But if you send me back to school, I'm going to die. And I said, no, man, you're not going to die.
Once again, it comes back to how life has changed. And I think this whole scam pandemic thing has brought out a lot of fractures in our society, where a lot of men were working 6 days a week up to what time they get home, 8 o'clock. A lot of women were busy out having coffee and doing their nails, or sitting at home, or going to their friends. And now all of a sudden, for 5 weeks, you were sitting looking at each other and you didn't know what to do. And the same goes for how things have changed, where the husband was bringing in money or the wife were bringing in money, and now neither of them or one of them aren't. So this has now brought up a lot of, I think, sort of underlying issues in our society. And I think this whole snowflake thing has just made it worse, because parents weren't giving attention to their child. And that comes back to what Chad said earlier, the absence of a mother or a father, whether it's biological or step, how big a part it plays having someone in your life that is not a relative. Hence that, I think that 12% or 2% or something you said.
Yeah. 12% of all children in South Africa are raised by non-parents.
Strangers.
So strangers. Yeah. So which is quite shocking. So I'm going to the Petsu's comment is, I think that's where the father role can also play a role. Bring a bit of strength to the household.
Yes.
Because the men of today, I don't know if it's just me, but I've noticed men have become extremely effeminate. It's like as if they've lost their spirit, man. It's like, okay, grow a pair and start literally taking charge. Start learning to be a man.
Yeah, but also I think in today's life, the whole thing has changed for being a man. You've got to learn how to clean the house. You've got to know how to cook. You've got to know how to iron. And unless you were coming from the days where you were in the army and you were taught that self-discipline, or you stayed alone, you were a bachelor for long enough, you don't know those things. And the same goes for the women. I think a lot of women need to know how to do a bit of DIY, how to be able to know what's wrong with a car, and they can. And the same for a man can try to understand the woman's life or the woman's ways, but still be a man, still cry and watch rugby, or play with their kids, or tell their kids about boys. I just think the problem is parents, the breakdown of the parental roles and what comes with it.
Yeah, and I think also, sorry to interrupt there, Ruth.
No. I just want to say hi to Kat. Navy boys. My mother was in the Navy up here, but we I think women feel, because they have to take control so often, we as women have become very aggressive. We have to fight for our place in society, and I think it's not a place to start. And men have become effeminate. They feel if men become aggressive, now they're becoming, that now there's lawsuits and all sorts of nonsense. But communication with children and with each other is key, and spending quality time with people is also very, very important. Sorry, carry on, Chad.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think it's the early stages in particular that these principles, if you wish, can be instilled early into our children. And I think basically I would say in the first 6 years of the child's upbringing, it is so important to give them as many lessons as we possibly can, and learn to be honest with them too. And then, but also on the same note, we also have a new problem that I think is occurring as well. How many people are you noticing that are literally reaching their 20s, 30s, and they're still living at home, living off mommy and daddy's dole, and they don't take responsibility anymore? And to me, that's a parenting problem as well, because the parents are not letting go. They're not letting the child out of the nest and allowing the child to experience life to its fullest. Because I think there's also a case of where you could also have over-parenting. Like, I've seen it time and time again where people run after their kids and they treat them as if they're made of glass, and we don't realize our kids are actually a lot more robust than they really are. And we got to learn to sometimes allow them to fall, allow them to slip into the pool. So long as we are there and we are paying attention, we can still deal with those situations, but we can't stop them from experiencing the real world. And because the real world doesn't care how they feel about stuff, and we've got to give them the opportunity to develop their emotional IQ, if you will, to be able to be prepared for the real world.
Exactly.
I mean, it comes back to the role that the man or the woman plays within the relationship. I mean, if you can't support your partner, your wife, your spouse, whatever, then how can you support the rest of your family? Like I said, me and Elizabeth, we've been together for 13 years, and I support her in her business. She supports me in my business, and we are sort of doing okay. A lot of other people I know, they cannot really count on their partners for support of their businesses. Like I said earlier, where, let's say, for instance, the wife had her own business, successful business, doing well, and now because of lockdown and for instance, they had to close down. Now the husband's the only one bringing in the bacon, and how then he looks down on her, and it sort of turns back to the 1950s where she has to stand ready in the kitchen making food and raising the kids, because the kids are at home now as well. And once again, no one really takes responsibility. No one really stands up. No one really actively plays a part in being a part of a society, whether it's a child and two parents or three children and two parents. I think this is the whole fabric, and that then translates back to the kids, where you can't say, listen, are you lazy? Why can you not do your job properly? You need to work harder. They feel offended. They are then emotionally abused. I'm not saying the old days were right, but the times now is also as equally or unequally not right.
Can I ask you, gentlemen, a question? Do you think they should bring back conscription?
Yes.
For women and
Yes.
and men?
Well, yes.
Not necessarily to teach women, or not to teach them to use a gun, but to get them ready for the real world.
Yes.
Teach them a set of skills that will assist them.
I would say yes, but there is a proviso. Not under the current South African Defence Force.
No. You are more
likely, SANDF.
You are more likely to become obese or get HIV than actually become self-disciplined and become prepared.
Perhaps maybe what we could be talking about is maybe it's a good idea to have like a year where your kids come out of school and they go into some form of like military school, where they get some real good military skills. And I know it sounds terrible by saying military, but some severe survival skills.
School of life.
Yes.
Not so much military, maybe school of life. Learn how to do a tax return. Learn how to fix a car, how to build something, how to create
change
something.
a tire.
Sorry, Chad.
No. So I was saying basically, some form of a skills development program that you put them into to give them maybe like, let me give you an example of what I have sort of in mind is like, if there was something that I wish I knew when I like sort of matriculated, like I would wish I'd knew how to deal with finances properly. I wish I knew how to deal with meeting new people in a workspace, what to expect, what to feel, and how to do a proper the art of negotiation, for an example. These basic sort of skills, which I think a lot of our kids don't get it from an academic point of view.
Well, I mean, Chad, if you like, I see Jim says, why on earth would I want my kids serving the ANC regime? Yes, I agree. But if you look at countries who's doing it, for instance, South Korea or Denmark or Finland, they actually go in, they are conscripted, and you see how they were dealing with things with this whole outbreak and how they were recuperating and all that. And I think that is a valid point. Unfortunately, I also do agree with Jim that why do I want them to be taught by the ANC, the regime government? But
no, yeah, not the ANC. I'm talking okay, let's say now the ANC wasn't a role player.
Oh, no, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see Mareka says that they were outward, which is PT. I do think that PT is something that should be brought back.
Yes, yeah. Good old PT.
Good old PT.
Yes.
Not life orientation, outward, liggaamsopvoeding.
Yeah, like I would agree with Jim with regards to why would you want to send your kids to support any form of regime for that matter. Yeah, I agree. But at the same breath, if we look back to when we in South Africa did have a conscription, I can tell you without a doubt, the guys that did go and serve their conscription that year, those guys built something that the average male is not experiencing today.
It's self-discipline, self-worth.
Yeah. Self-worth. Now you're talking. Self-discovery.
Comradeship. They also learned survival skills. Even if you take your kids, like for an example, I know Jim hunts. So, and to me, that's like one skill that some people may not agree with me on this, but I do believe that's one skill we should teach to our kids. They should know how to survive. Should all fucking hell break loose, excuse my French, but if all shit takes place, they should know how to survive. They should know what it's like to take the life of another living creature, with regards to shooting an animal, and doing it properly and doing it respectfully, so that we create that kind of value with our kids, which a lot of kids don't get today. Correct. They don't experience it. To them, they're missing a lot of that, and that's why I feel like if there was some kind of a program you could put your kids into, like I don't know, maybe like a summer camp or something where you send your kids to, and then they get those kind of skills, like a Bear Grylls type of skills, just not so much so they can learn to survive, but purely just to experience the hardships of what life is really about.
Also, I mean, if you guys take when I grew up, I'd say up to sort of standard 6, which is grade 8, we had SOS camps. You learned how to make fire, you learned how to make tents, you did team building, scouting things, you built rafts, you did a whole bunch of stuff, and it's stuff that the kids nowadays can't do because this one's got diabetes and that one's allergic to this and this one can't do that and that one is secure and that one's too
snowflake. This one is a snowflake.
Yeah.
And I just want to say hello to Marcel Parker. Yeah, she's joining us, I think, all the way, if it's the same Marcel Parker, all the way from Dubai. Yeah, and she's got value stuff to add. She says finance education. I mean, a basic contract. People don't know what a basic agreement is. You know, clauses in an agreement, what clauses apply, what clauses don't apply. You know, something that we deal with every day in life, whether it's buying a car or renting a property or, you know, even signing up for a new service. A friend of ours has to pay an astronomical amount during lockdown for a transport service that her child is not using because there's no school, but she unfortunately signed a year contract. You know, I mean, it's bizarre. It's like school has honestly failed us. And I keep bringing this. Look, we have completely segued. What the theme of tonight's stream was that I celebrate men like you who take responsibility, who want to take responsibility. And like I always say, you know, if you have a neighbor who's a single mom and you've got the time and you obviously not the pedophilic type, obviously, and you've built a relationship or a rapport with the child, and you can teach them a set of skills, even if it's throwing a ball or showing them a video game or playing a video game with them at their own home, showing some form of interest in the child. Do it.
Yeah,
let that child feel it's not alone.
That's sorry, Lawrence. I agree with you. The maybe the sense of abandonment is definitely one of the things that, you know, parents or fathers can fill that role with, by making sure that the child doesn't experience it. You know, give you an example of something that I actually watched the other day, and I really do appreciate that kind of mentality. Is there's a guy on YouTube who does like the self-reliance, where he lives out in the woods, and his daughter comes to this cabin where he's built in the middle of nowhere, and he hunts for his food and everything, all on YouTube. And like, his daughter's really, really young, but he takes her and he literally shows her how to build a fire and how to do it safely. You know, instead of, because like a lot of parents won't even allow a child to stand next to a father busy creating or building a braai for the weekend. You know, they won't even do that kind of thing because, oh no, it's too dangerous. You can't have your child standing next to it. Yes, there's obviously horror stories where you do get children that are burnt and stuff like that by, and you know, perhaps negligent behavior or something like that. But that's negligent behavior. It's not the norm. It's the rarity.
Yes.
But the same goes for working in the garden or doing a bit of painting around the house or working, cleaning the yard.
Or cooking or cleaning or ironing or chores.
Yes, chores. Or the child might burn themselves cooking rice or making food. I think it's skills that parents like us, and I'm not saying us, but parents are not giving their children because they are the ones turning their kids into these snowflakes.
Yes.
Uncapable, emotionless, too emotion kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think empower our children. Sorry, Chad. I just want to add that.
Yes, go for it.
We have to empower our children, and I think I resented my matriarchal type because I felt she didn't prepare me well enough for life. Because, like you said, she didn't teach me. You know, she was also, and her mother didn't prepare her. You know, she grew up in the middle of the Transkei. Her first home was a hut. She was born in the middle of winter. They had very little. They were farmers, and my point is that even herself wasn't prepared for the real world. And I felt resentment for her subconsciously anyway, because I was so naive, you know.
Yeah.
And it's so important to empower our children. And also, yes, she was a total people pleaser, my mother. She could never say no to anyone. And this affected me on a subconscious level where I had to be friends with everyone. And if someone didn't like me, it destroyed me. It properly destroyed me. It messed with my mental stability. And I say to my son now, he says, you know, when he was young, he said, this one doesn't want to. I said, Nate, there are 5 billion, or correct me, more billion people in the world. You're not going to like everyone, and not everyone is going to like you. And that's actually okay, you know. And that is so important to teach our children, that we're all different. We're all not the same, whether it's black, pink, yellow, blue, purple, whatever. We're all made up of different things. And we have to teach our children self-worth. You have to like yourself as a person. And this is something that I'm learning every day, and be grateful for what you have.
And also, if you can't love yourself, how can you love and accept others? And this is sort of another thing where it's a problem in our, and my wife hates this, with the socio-economic sort of area in our country. We people cannot accept themselves, accept where they come from, and accept others for who they are and where they come from. It's either I will hate you or I will completely integrate, and it doesn't work, because people, you don't like yourself, you don't love yourself, you don't accept yourself. And I think that is something that maybe it's like the mother will give you the guidance, the love, the softness, and the father will give you that rigid spine that you need. With anything in life, you need, caring love, you need tough love, you need good manners, you need stern manners, values. You need to know when to be flexible and when to be not flexible, or uninfluenceable. And I just think that best of both worlds have been lost, because a lot of kids are pampered and living in that bubble. And unfortunately, it's tough for single households, a mom to fulfill the role of a mother and a father, or the father to fulfill the role of the father, which he probably can do, but then be that softer touch, feminine sort of side, to be understanding when the girl grows up and how she's feeling and all the emotions that a man can never, ever understand.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've been over. Sorry, Chad, we've been over for an hour. I just want to ask you. Okay, Chad, finish your point, and then I want to do a little bit of trivia.
No, I just actually wanted to mention something that I read from Kat there earlier, and I think that, it's something that she said there that is so true, metaphorically and physically. She said there, let children climb trees. Now, I mean that metaphorically, in the sense of you've got to let them learn to experience the world. You've got to let them experience life. They've got to learn what are goods and what are bads, and they got to be. We got to stop sheltering them from what the real world is like. And physically, I mean, yes, climb a damn tree. Go learn what you can find up there. Look at the beauty of the tree itself. We've got to stop letting our kids coop themselves up in a small four-cornered bedroom with maybe a phone or an Xbox or a PlayStation or something that they're sitting with all day. They've got to also learn to start experiencing the world as well. And in terms of parenting, I think I'm guaranteeing you, in a single parent home, it's extremely difficult to play the role of a father and a mother. But that's also society needs to also participate as well. If it's a mother that's in a single home, she must also learn to take support from people around her, from her friends, people around her. Don't just sit there and pridefully say, look, I'm a single mom, I can do it all by myself, because there's nothing wrong with asking for a little bit of help.
Jim says, please read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Okay, we'll look into it. He covers all of this. Okay, great. Wonderful. Wise Jeremy Nell tells us exactly what's what.
The bookworm.
Yeah, the bookworm.
Yeah.
But so I just want to ask you, gents, I started asking these questions in the beginning. So I just wanted to sort of, like, the questions are, what's your favorite time of day? What's your favorite character trait or aspect of your partner that you find unique? So Lawrence, go first. In your partner,
Elizabeth is probably the person with the most supportive, caring heart. She will love you and support you no matter what, no matter how big the mistake you've made. But you have to work at it and prove yourself and sort of, yeah.
Okay, Chad, your relationship?
What I find unique with my partner.
An aspect or trait that you just feel, something positive.
She makes a mean cup of coffee.
Okie dokie.
No, jokes aside, I think one of her strongest traits is she really knows how to lend an ear. In the times where I need somebody to just sometimes listen to some of my frustrations, she knows how to lend an ear at the right times.
Okay,
Yeah,
brilliant.
in terms of what I find quite unique with her is she knows when to keep quiet and when to talk. Because sometimes, when you get into a situation where you want to say something and the other person just simply wants to have their input, and sometimes you just don't need the input, you just need somebody to listen. And I think she really knows how to balance that really well.
Okay, 2 more questions I'm just going to do. What is your favorite veg, fruit, or meal? Chad, let's start with Chad. Lawrence, you think about it.
Veg, fruit, or meal?
So I gave 3 options there. So your favorite vegetable would be what?
Favorite vegetable. I think I would say potato, maybe.
Okay.
Potato.
And fruit?
Just because of the utility of it.
Okay.
Fruit. I must say, not a lot of people enjoy it, but I really do. I enjoy pomegranates.
Okay. Did you know
Um,
that the pomegranate has 613 seeds, which is equivalent to how many commandments there are in the Old Testament?
Sure,
And that's why we eat it on Passover as a spiritual fruit. But that's just segue shit. But anyway.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that because I just care about how they taste.
And they're very good for you.
Yeah.
Lawrence?
Fruit would probably be bananas or a nice soft juicy pear. And then when it comes to veg, I don't know, we're pretty big veggie eaters in this house, so anything from pumpkins to squashies to cauliflower, broccoli, and then meal, anything that's got meat in it. Unfortunately, I'm a carnivore. I cannot be a vegan. I believe you need meat. So yeah, anything with meat, and the more meat, the better.
Okay, and the last question: beer, wine, or whiskey, or all 3? Lawrence?
Beer, whiskey, not so much wine, maybe white, but preference is dark rum.
Okay.
Captain Morgan,
cool.
dark rum.
Okay. Chad?
I'm a beer man. I enjoy my beers.
Okay, cool. And Marcel Parker says my favorite fruit is grapes in the form of wine. In fact, Marcel, I think she posted something on Facebook that she had bought a whole lot of South African wines to support the South African farmers, and she's in Dubai. Marcel, am I right? Maybe just in the comments, just say yes or no. But yeah, she's in Dubai, and they're obviously getting a couple of items there, and they're trying to support us here in good old SA. So, but yeah, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the stream with me. I think we've chatted sufficiently, and I think it was so important to share your perspective on this Women's Day, to also have a platform. And yeah, thank you for being here with me.
Cool. Thank
you for having us.
Yeah, no, you're excellent. You definitely are candy, and the jokers are just intriguing. But Elizabeth, don't take offense now. But
I promise you, I'm going to keep that mystery going for a long time.
Oh wait, we're nearly narrowing it down. Well, just you wait. But Lawrence, bye, donkey.
Cool.
Chad, have a lovely evening. Guys, if
Thank
you're
you.
working tomorrow, enjoy
Yep.
it. Thank God we have jobs. And yeah, TTFN, everybody. Ta-ta for
Thank you.
now.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.